What's up, guys, and welcome back for another EVE Online video. This one is going to be about PI. First of all, the big reason why there's a variance in how many factories you can put on barren versus gas or whatever is going to be the links. Links are going to scale by the longer your link between your building is, the more power and CPU it's going to draw. Now, most of the time, and what you see is people butting up these buildings, these factories back to back. But even if you put these buildings completely in the same distance on a couple different types of planets, the link cost is going to be different because of the radius of the planet, which is what we have to calculate. Now you can go to find the radius of your planet by just going to show info, and down there it'll show the radius. This gas planet we're on right now is 13,270 kilometers, which means, and not all these buildings are 100% right up next to each other. But as you can see, if we go on the horizontal, we're looking anywhere between 161 kilometers and some of these can be up to like a 170, but roughly about the 160, 161 kilometer range. Now also there's a minimum cost for links as well. So if we go down here and if you drop below 60 kilometers, then the base cost for links is 15 TF and 10 MW, and then as the link gets bigger, it scales. So keep that in mind. That's why barren planets are usually really, really nice for process planets or like factory only planets, because their radius is very, very small, which means that your link cost is very, very small, which means you're able to get those 24 factories in place. So just make sure you kind of, if you're going to put a spreadsheet together after watching this video based on like kind of the information I give you, make sure you're checking your radius, your planet radius, for everything that you're doing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into my spreadsheet that I've got going on here, and I'll kind of walk you through these numbers and everything. So right now I have all the building types here. The link CPU and power is going to be automatically calculated. That's why this is grayed out. We don't actually want to change numbers here. But then everything else here we can kind of put stuff into. So let's say for traditional, how I used to do extractor planets, we'd go one extractor with 10 heads each, and then we'll say 12 basic factories and then a launch pad. That's going to give us roughly, we're going to be using about 18,540 power. We're not going to come anywhere close to the CPU on this. You end up using more CPU when you start doing like high-tech factory stuff and everything. But also, this is not completely accurate either because we don't have our radius in here. So we want to put the radius in from that gas planet. So 13,270. And that is going to take those minimums. You see that 15 CPU and that 10 power from that link, and it's going to increase it. And that's going to give you this is a rough estimate of, you're going to get really close with these numbers in calculating your total need. Now, with all the information, we can actually go in here and we can start kind of planning what we can do. And so if let's say you want to do an extractor only planet, you could technically do 3 extractors with 5 extractors each, and then you could give each of those 3 extractors its own launch pad, and you'd have about 644 power left over. And that's what's nice about having all this information, is if you know the radius and you know kind of what you're wanting to put on as far as buildings go, then you can see roughly if it's possible. Down here I have a command center skill. So if you go command center skill 1, it's going to scale the whole limit down. So as you can see, our limit turns to like 9,000 and our CPU is like 7,057. But if we go up to like CPU center 5, then we get the 19,000 and the 25,000 respectively. Now, getting all this stuff, all this information, if you want to build your own spreadsheet, is pretty easy. First, you have to know here's all of the actual requirements. Each extractor in CPU and power, or all the buildings, this is all their CPU base, and then all the power base. And what I'm doing over here is I'm basically just taking the building count and I'm timesing it by the power draw to get a total for both CPU and power, and then I'm just totaling it up down here, and then basically netting it off of the limit that I have set for the command center skill. And so what the limits are is if you're at level 0, then it's 6,000, and then 1675, and then if you go to 1, it goes to 9,000, and then 7,057, and then when you go to level 2, it's 12,000 for power draw and 12,136 for power or CPU. And then level 3, 15,000 and 17,000. And then 4 would be 17 and 21,000. And then maxed out level 5 is 19,000 and 25,415. All that stuff can be found on the Eve University wiki page and everything like that. What I really wanted to kind of get you guys set up with, if you want to do your own spreadsheet, is just giving you the rough percentage numbers or the rough growth numbers for those links, which tends to be kind of like the breaking factor in planning. So this is what down here. This is a field right here that I call B2B kilometers. This is basically building to building kilometer, and it's roughly 1.22% of the radius, which is how we get this 162, which is a rough estimate, as you could tell when we demonstrated on the planet itself. So essentially what you want to get this number is just, you want to take, as you can see here, I have basically the 1.22%, and then you want to times it by the radius of the planet to get the minimum building to building kilometer. Now, the rough estimate for CPU cost per kilometer is 0.2. So it means for every kilometer in distance that you go up, the CPU cost is going to go up by 0.2. And then for the power for every kilometer distance, you're looking at 0.15. So what I'm basically doing here is I'm taking the cost per kilometer times the building to building kilometer, doing that calculation first, and then I'm adding the base value, right? Because you're never going to get a building closer than less than what it would take for like 60 kilometers to be the base. And all that is just based on the kilometer radius over here. But I put this together whenever I was kind of messing around with PI. It's really nice whenever you're kind of calculating even process planets. So for instance, let's say we want to do a 2 launch pad, we'll say 2 launch pad advanced factory. We go 24. You can start to see kind of like if it's possible to do it on a planet type. You can see it's not possible to do it on a gas, right? You're probably going to be stuck with, let's go down 23. Yeah, you'll probably only get like 23 advanced factories with 2 pads on a gas planet because of the link cost. And then also, if you wanted to make an entire P1 or basic factory planet, you can't actually do 24 like you can with advanced factories because they cost more. Even on a barren planet, you can get a maximum of like 22, but on a gas planet, it's not possible. The radius is too high. So for instance, like let's say we take this down to like 3,500, which is, I guess an average of a barren planet radius. Then we can go 1 pad and we can go 22 here. But if you go 23, it's too much. 22 is basically the cap for basic factories. Or if you want to do advanced factories, you could do 24 or potentially even 25 if you're doing 1 pad. For a 2 pad process planet, you're looking at 24 and 2. You don't need any storage because you can just basically have input on 1 pad, output on the other pad. If you are doing something where you're maybe taking like P1 and you're turning it into P2 and then it turns itself into P3, you could do 2 pads and you could do a storage, but then you're probably going to come down to like 22 factories or even 23 factories. But that's why having something like this is really, really nice. If you're pretty familiar with spreadsheets and you know the numbers and you're able to set something up like this for yourself, very, very handy because, it's really nice to be able to actually figure out if it's going to work or if your plan is going to work outside of game before you actually commit command centers and all that stuff like that. But I figured I'd kind of show you guys these numbers and, let you know kind of like why there's a variance in what you can do on certain planet types. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was entertaining or educational, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.